Hello, welcome everyone, and happy Friday. I can't believe we're at the end of the week. And joining me is Sarah herself, and she has a life update that she wants to tell everyone. I just wish I could hug you from the video, but so you don't work for Fox 21 anymore.
No.
Tell us kind of what you do now.
So I was born and raised in Missouri, moved out to Colorado when I graduated college, got the job there. But just recently, a little under a month ago, moved back to Missouri, just to be closer to family and stuff like that. So I'm back in Missouri now. I'm actually not in news at all anymore.
I'm so sad.
I work for a marketing group here in Columbia, Missouri, and I am an account manager. So I handle different clients and what they need as far as social media and different things of that sort.
And just so everyone knows, Sarah is literally the best photographer. So she is so missed at Fox 21. And I wish you all the best in Missouri. I'll have to come visit you.
Yes.
And people know this, like here in Colorado, but even though we worked together, we became best friends. And, you were in my wedding.
Yep.
And, I just miss you so much. Going to work without you being there is so different because, we started at the same time at Fox 21. And so I haven't been there without you. You started, I think, a week before I started. So it's really, really sad. And I just wanted to kind of give people that have been following us on YouTube or whatever, kind of a heads up as where are you now? You're not going to be here in Colorado helping me on stories, but I'll think about you all the time. I'm like, I think I even called you the other day and be like, can the laptops do this? Or can the cameras do this? And, I'm still calling you to, I'm not the greatest with technology, especially with cameras and stuff. So that's probably why we were on a little later than 10 o'clock on the dot, because I was still trying to figure this out. So how do you like your new job?
I love it. It's definitely different only because, I went to school and got my degree in what I was doing at Fox 21. So this is very different. I'm not necessarily used to it yet. It's also completely different, change of pace, because now I sit at a desk versus going out and chasing storms and being
You mean
out
you
in the
don't have
world.
to go out in the middle of the night when at 3 a.m. and go, stake out a standoff and wait until it's over, until the suspect either, gets shot or, gets out of the house.
Yeah, I actually get to go to sleep now for the full amount of time, no interruptions, which is nice. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. My coworkers are awesome, which is fun. Obviously don't have you, so I don't have my little venting buddy.
Yeah. Well, you are just a phone call away. We could always just call each other up. And
we just talked the other day when you were driving to a story.
Yes. Yeah. I was driving to Trinidad, which is a lot further than Salida and further places. And yeah, I'm always just a phone call away. But, something that I loved about you is that you were invested in some of the stories that I covered, especially with this Suzanne Morphew case. You would wear the bands that people would give us, the Justice for Suzanne and the Pray for Suzanne and things like that, and Find Suzanne bracelets. And you really were invested in this case, like so many other people were invested and are invested. I mean, she's still missing. We still haven't found her body, and it's more than 2 years and 2 months. It's been so long, and it's we still don't know where she is. They said in the last court document or whatever that she was under 5 feet of snow in the mountains behind the Morphew property. And, it has been very hot. I mean, we do get some late snows. And so there was some snow a couple months ago, but it has been pretty warm here. And I even reached out to Sheriff Speasy and DA Linda Stanley to find out if they had been digging, if they've been excavating, if they've been working on finding Suzanne. And Sheriff Speasy, he's pretty tight-lipped with this investigation and has been really since the first week. And he just responded to my email just saying, it's an active investigation and, it's an ongoing investigation and they couldn't talk about it. And, I have seen new banners out, which they're new photos of Suzanne, kind of a selfie in her car, and they've been out at like Walmart and liquor stores, and they are reiterating that it's an active investigation and that they have, the tip line, the law enforcement tip line on it, just to keep the word out that they are actively investigating that case. And if anyone has any tips to come forward and things like that. But Sarah, did you know that he took a plea deal, and Barry Morphew, his Suzanne's husband, took a plea deal and was sentenced for the voter fraud case. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go over just a little summary of it. I took some notes. It was over WebEx. I was able to record it and then sent it off to all the media outlets. So, Barry Morphew, as well as his attorney, Iris Eaton, they were on WebEx. They weren't in the courtroom. Judge Patrick Murphy was, as well as for the state, representing the state, Mark Holbert. Judge immediately asked, like, what's the status? Have you guys come to an agreement?
So it's back to Patrick Murphy now?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So
Judge Lama isn't presiding over this case. It was Judge Murphy. It's because it's just for the voter one. There wasn't conflict of interest in this case versus the previous one. Iris Eaton said, yep, we've come to agreement for 1 year supervised deferred judgment to the Class 5 felony of forgery. So he signed this plea agreement that he would plead guilty to the Class 5 felony of forgery, but there would be no jail time at all, and that the court would be open to see if he would serve, do some public service, like community service, some hours of that. And then this was interesting. They brought up the fact that Barry Morphew wanted to be able to use his firearms to go hunting for this upcoming hunting season. So they had to make a decision on that as well. The judge asked Barry Morphew all these questions, like, do you understand the plea agreement? Did you sign the plea agreement? Are you doing this voluntarily? Did you understand, what this means, that you're not going to go to a trial and all these things? And, Barry Morphew said, yes, sir. Yes, I did. And things like that. And then he's asked, what does it mean for a deferred sentence? What does that mean to you, Mr. Morphew? And he goes, I would be on probation for a year, and if I do nothing wrong or criminally in that year, then the charges are dismissed and sealed. And the judge goes, yep, that's correct. There might be other terms of probation, like doing public service, that I might order. But if you were to violate the condition, so this is if he were to not follow up with his probation officer, or, commit a different crime or something, that he wanted to go over his punishment if he were to do some of those things. And he said, the judge said, if those were proven to me that you did either not contact and keep in touch with your probation officer or do something criminally, that there could be two things that happen. I could revoke the deferred, and you would have this felony on your record. The second is that I would have to do is resentence you. And on a Class 5 felony, you could receive up to 3 years in prison, followed by 2 years of parole. So you do, and he just kept asking, like, do you understand this? Making sure that he understands what he is kind of giving up as not going to trial, rather than and doing this plea hearing or whatever, and signing this plea agreement. And then, the judge said, hopefully you won't have to deal with that, and we can, you just will have this charges dismissed and sealed, once you do the probation for a year. And he goes, I understand. And then obviously he had to say, these are your charges, or this is your charge. What do you plead? And he had to say guilty to be able to have this agreement done. And then they went on to sentencing, and Iris Eaton got to speak, and also Mark Holbert. Mark Holbert says, we realized with this agreement there was no jail time. He had to have no jail time, and then also that he has a lack of convictions and criminal history. So pretty much it's got to be public service, kind of. It's up to the judge to decide how much public service. And Iris Eaton went on and said, these charges were 15 months ago. He spent 5 months in jail. He was under significant surveillance for the last 2 years. He doesn't have a permanent residence and has found significant work in Denver. She spoke about how, because it's been so hard for him the last 2 years under court supervision, that it's been hard for him to make money, so that now that he is finally making money in Denver, he would really, it seemed like they didn't really want him to do public service, but it was like up to the judge, really,
Yeah.
This is a quote I just want to say from Iris Eaton. She said, he is spent, talking about Morphew. Mr. Morphew has spent all of his resources. He has spent all of his energy, all of his emotional health and mental health getting through the last years of his life, especially the last year where he has been under court supervision without a single mark or violation in any way, and always appearing for court and being astute in terms of talking to counsel. I understand that it is really helpful to give back to the community. I just want to say that Mr. Morphew took this plead guilty, and the court should know that what the ballot looked like, the wrong choice, and that was the wrong choice that Mr. Morphew made. Mr. Morphew signed the witness line of his wife's ballot, and he signed his name on the ballot, not his wife's name, and didn't make a mark where she would have ordinarily signed. Mr. Morphew's wrong choice was that he believed that he had legal guardianship over Suzanne Morphew that he could sign. And this too was covered under the guardianship. And that was a wrong choice. And he understands that. He doesn't want to spend another year in the court wasting everyone's time. And so he doesn't want to waste any more time or money. So he won't violate it, and it will all be over in a year. He will stay in touch with probation, and he will comply with the laws that he has for the entire 54 years of life. So in that statement, I felt like, the reason that Iris Eaton supposedly believes that Barry Morphew did this whole ballot thing was because he was granted guardianship of Suzanne in Indiana. So whenever they wanted to sell the house in Indiana, he could sign for Suzanne. And so that's why, at least according to this and hearing from Iris Eaton, that's kind of the reason why he did what he did. But then he gave a different answer to law enforcement. And that's when the judge even spoke up and was like, wait, I thought he voted. The judge then asked if the ballot had been voted, asking if there was a check mark on the presidential ballot for a certain candidate. And Mr. Holbert from the state, said yes. He reiterated, and he said he did vote for Trump, and then gave the explanation from the arrest affidavit where, he said to law enforcement, the other side is cheating, so I didn't think this would be a big deal of me voting for Trump for Suzanne or whatever. And the judge even read the arrest affidavit word for word. And the very first thing at the very beginning, when Iris Eaton was kind of explaining the plea agreement, the judge asked, "Can I rely on the affidavit for the factual basis, Miss Eaton?" That's the judge's question to Eaton, and she said yes. So if she's saying that the affidavit is correct, then, and then Iris Eaton even reiterated that, whatever Morphew said to law enforcement when questioned about the ballot, he was honest with law enforcement then. So anyway, so then the sentencing happened. They talked a little bit about, whether or not he can have his firearms to go hunting. And with a felony, you can't have firearms. He can use a bow and a muzzle loader. So, and he has to ask for permission for the next year before he uses a bow and a muzzle loader from his probation officer. So that case is kind of wrapped up for the ballot vote. What did you think of that? What's your first reaction?
Well, I feel like, I guess I could slightly understand if he thought he had guardianship, but at the same time, like, I don't know the exact timeline of that. So if that had already gone through and been approved and whatever, I also don't know the legal aspects of that, if that's exactly how that works. I'm pretty sure you still can't vote for somebody. You just have to vote for yourself.
Yeah.
So either way, I feel like he should have known that probably wasn't allowed.
Yeah, Iris Eaton even said, this was a bad choice, and he knows it was a bad choice. So, and he filed guardianship in June. I don't really remember what month he was, when the judge said, yes, you have guardianship. I don't remember, but I think it was shortly after, but the election was in November. So, I think he was already granted guardianship by the time voting happened in November. I do want to say one quote from the judge. He did say, the judge said, "I hear what you said about the other case," which, Miss Eaton wanted there to be no collusion with the other case in regards to the first-degree murder case that was dropped recently or dismissed with prejudice because they believe they know where Suzanne is and want to find Suzanne and as far as law enforcement goes.
Yeah.
But, the judge reiterated, this is an entirely separate case, and I'm not only looking at the case in front of me before he gave his sentencing. Because there would be no punishment whatsoever if he gets through this deferred sentence. The judge thought that there needed to be some sort of punishment because you can't vote for someone else, and he said, and I don't even call public service punishment, but there needs to be some sort of consequence for this type of case is what Judge Murphy said. And so, so for voter fraud and this type of action is rare. He said, I think when it does occur, it does need to be addressed. So he was sentenced to 32 hours of public service. And then he also has to pay court costs, but there was no really restitution, no other fines.
So is that like a typical punishment for that? Because somebody in the comments was saying that I guess recently somebody else in Colorado got caught with voter fraud and they have like 5 years in prison now.
Yeah. So I believe with that case, the woman had prior criminal history. Yeah. So people need to realize that as well. But yeah, so it was only like a 20-minute court proceedings. It was real quick. They had already kind of made the plea agreement outside of the courtroom. They just had to present it to the judge, and the judge had to make sure that Barry Morphew understood what he was doing, because once you do it, you can't take it back, so once he made that guilty plea, he can't take it back. If he gets through the deferred sentence, that will be sealed and will be not on his record. So, but if he can't get through that 1 year probation, either if he commits a crime or something, or if he doesn't meet with his probation officer, then things could change for him, obviously. So, but anyways, that's kind of it in a nutshell. What else is going on with you? You're just excited for this new job. How many weeks have you been in it?
So it's officially been 3 full weeks, I believe. Yeah.
Do you miss photography? Do you miss going out with me as a reporter and covering crazy stories?
I do. There's definitely a lot of elements that I miss about it. Just going out into the community in general was always fun, and like, you know, trying out new businesses and checking out cool parks and different things like that. But now I only work Monday through Thursday, which is why I'm on here, because I'm off every Friday now. Nice. So really enjoying that. I get my holidays off. It's nice.
Yeah, you don't have to be woken up in the middle of the night to go to a crime scene. That's nice. Well, I mean, I know that I missed you. I know a ton of people at the station miss you. So I just wanted you to know that you meant so much to us here at Fox 21. And it's not goodbye. It's just see you later, because we will visit each other a lot. Yes. I hope. I hope to go to a Cardinals game maybe, or
anytime the Avs play the Blues, come on down.
That's true. That very true. Well, anything else you want to talk about as far as this case, you covering it, the people that have supported us trying to get answers? I know a lot of people right now, you know, are wanting to understand what's going on with law enforcement. Why hasn't she been found? Where is she? You know, things like that.
Yeah, I feel like those are just kind of the biggest questions, is like, why has it taken so long, especially if they feel like they have a location in mind. Like, I understand they have to be very careful, and, you know, if she is buried somewhere, you can't just start digging. Like, you have to be very accurate with it. But yeah, I just feel like because there's such a big following on this, they've probably gotten so many tips and calls and different things like that. So then narrowing it down, like, I don't know. I just feel like something more needs to happen. And I know they keep saying it's active, but, you know, are they going out and searching for 3 hours every day? Is it kind of like, you know, all right, well, I've got 10 minutes today. Let me go hop on over somewhere and look real fast. Like, I would just be curious how active they're actually being.
I still stay in touch with a lot of locals, and I'm like, are you seeing a lot of police presence or law enforcement presence? Are you seeing some digging anywhere in the mountains or anything like that? And they're like, no, they haven't been seeing that. But, you know, who knows where they're digging? I mean, it is, if you just look up in the mountains in that area, it's crazy. I mean, I remember Andy Mormon even said it's like a needle in a haystack. It's just, it's crazy how much terrain there is to cover and ground. I mean, in that court document, it seemed like they were very, very confident. I mean, to put that in a court document and kind of hint at where they believe Suzanne is was really bold. And I'm hoping by the end of summer that we'll have some sort of either statement or answer as to where Suzanne Morphew is. But I keep praying every day that, you know, the powers that be, they keep working and they keep finding, and hopefully they find Suzanne Morphew this year and give closure to the family, to those girls, to Barry Morphew, to all investigators that have worked tirelessly for 2+ years. You know, it would just be a great, great day to find Suzanne. But anyways, well, this was kind of short. So if you missed it, go back. We talked to Sarah about where she is now. She's not working for Fox 21 News. If you missed it, catch that. And then also we kind of gave a little quick summary of what happened with the voter forgery case against Barry Morphew. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 1 year deferred sentence of probation and supervised probation and 32 hours of community service. Sarah, any last words?
I love you and I miss you.
I love you and I miss you too. I wish I could just drive down the street and see you, but
you know,
that'll be a long drive.
Oh yeah, it's a tough one. Kansas is fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and maybe Sarah, you'll just have to pop in one of these, you know, whenever I do these YouTube videos and give your 2 cents. So
I'll be a surprise guest.
Yes. All right. Love you, Sarah. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you missed anything, go back and watch it later. Bye-bye.